What is going on, guys? Dino Bam Bam here with the 10-7 MMA. Happy to be back in your lives with another edition of the MMA Casuals Guide. Guys, this series is for very new or very casual fans of the sport to kind of give you the information you need when you're going to watch this fight so you don't look like such a casual in front of your friends at the bar. Anyways, guys, we're talking about UFC 291. This card is absolutely stacked. The main event is Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2. It, of course, has the return of the BMF belt. I can't wait to get into all of that, but before we do, guys, do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button, ring that little bell. That'll notify you when our videos drop. Anyways, guys, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get a little breakdown of the BMF title. The BMF title, which stands for the baddest MFer in the UFC, is up for grabs for only the second time in history. The first time was back at UFC 244 at Madison Square Garden. The fight saw Jorge Gamebred Masvidal defeat Nate Diaz in a pretty fun fight with a bad ending, as it was stopped by the doctors due to a cut on Nate Diaz. The belt was presented by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The whole thing was an absolute spectacle. I'm happy the UFC is bringing it back, and I couldn't think of anyone more deserving than the two men in this weekend's main event. So without further ado, guys, let's talk about that main event, starting with the red corner, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. The former interim champion Dustin Poirier from Lafayette, Louisiana is a 29-7 fighter. He has fought the absolute who's who of UFC fighters at both 145 pounds and 155 pounds. That list includes Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Eddie Alvarez twice, Anthony Pettis, Jim Miller, Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, Diego Pereira, Diego Brandao, Cub Swanson, the Korean Zombie, Max Holloway 2 times, and of course Conor McGregor 3 times. And of course, guys, he has also fought his opponent this weekend, Justin Gaethje. Poirier is a very well-rounded boxing style fighter. He is always down to go to war, and luckily for us fans, he has the perfect dance partner this week in the one, the only, Justin the Highlight Gaethje. In my humble opinion, the most exciting fighter on the planet by far. Justin Gaethje has put on war after war, including the fight of the year versus Michael Chandler in 2021. I will link that for you guys in the description below. While he hasn't faced quite the amount of huge names that Dustin Poirier has, Gaethje has fought against some of the best 155-pounders in the history of the UFC. Names including Khabib Nurmagomedov, Charles Oliveira, Cowboy Cerrone, Edson Barbosa, the aforementioned Michael Chandler, and of course he has fought against Dustin Poirier. This of course is the rematch. The first fight between the pair was a back and forth slugfest. Dustin Poirier eventually broke Gaethje down and won the fight by TKO in the 4th round. Gaethje looks to even the score and become the second BMF champion. Let's move on to the co-main event, which sees two former champions fighting to earn another title shot, as Jan Blachowicz takes on Alex Pereira. Guys, let's start with Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is a Polish powerhouse known for his heavy-handed striking attack and knockout power, which he himself has dubbed legendary Polish power. In his last fight, Jan fought Magomed Ankalaev for the vacant 205-pound championship. The pair would go the distance, and the judges would score that fight a draw. The vacant title would remain vacant until the next month, that is, where Jamal Hill would defeat the man who took the title from Jan Blachowicz, and that man is Glover Teixeira. With the title vacant once again after Jamal Hill was injured, Jan looks to solidify his claim for a title shot next by getting a huge win here. He has a tough task ahead of him though, as he is facing an absolute killer in former middleweight champion Alex Poatan Pereira. Alex Pereira, who was mentored by the previously mentioned former champion Glover Teixeira, is a Brazilian powerhouse. Known for his world-class striking and heavy power, Poatan has been a nightmare matchup for almost everyone he has faced. A former 2-division glory kickboxing champion holding 2 kickboxing wins over Israel Adesanya, he came into the UFC and ran through 3 straight opponents before getting another shot at then champion Israel Adesanya. Pereira would eventually win that fight via TKO in the 5th, crowning him the UFC's new middleweight champion. The pair would later rematch, and Izzy would get his revenge by knocking Pereira out and regaining his title. Alex Pereira has decided to move up in weight and try his luck at 205 pounds. The situation in the division is very unclear right now, as former champions Yuri Prochazka and Jamal Hill both had to vacate their titles due to injury. They've both been promised title shots upon their return, so we'll just see how this whole thing plays out. But before we see these two former champions face off, we're going to see an absolute striker's delight when former title contender Stephen Wonderboy Thompson takes on the super exciting Michel Pereira. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, a world-class karate fighter who has fought for undisputed gold in the UFC twice. Wonderboy has the skills to beat anyone in the division on the feet. Guys, at 40 years old, Wonderboy is reaching the end of his career, but you would not know it by watching his last fight. He put an absolute beating on Kevin Holland last December, and what was honestly one of the best fights of the year. Known for his flashy kicks, amazing footwork, and being one of the nicest human beings on the planet, Stephen Thompson was gifted the NMF belt, the nicest mother effer in the UFC. He was gifted that by Ariel Helwani on his show. The belt was an obvious parody of the BMF belt. Funny that we're going to get to see the NMF on the BMF pay-per-view. His opponent this week, guys, the absolute madman, Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira is a super flashy striker with a bit of a capoeira style. He's known for unorthodox movements such as flips and running off the cage and spinning punches and crazy things like that. If you've never seen a Michel Pereira fight, do yourself a favor, YouTube some highlight tapes. It's absolutely crazy. There is no way that this fight disappoints. If Poirier and Gaethje were not on this card, this would be almost a shoe-in for fight of the night. We move on to the next fight, guys, and we have to talk about the UFC's lightweight division again here, as we get to see Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Let's talk a little bit about Tony Ferguson. The legend Tony Ferguson has fallen on tough times. Once a winner of the interim championship and 12 straight UFC fights, the future Hall of Famer and fan favorite is currently on a 5-fight losing streak. They say Father Time's undefeated, and it looks like that's true once again, but Tony Ferguson looks to prove the doubters wrong one more time, with wins over notable names like Donald Cowboy Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, Kevin Lee, Rafael Dos Anjos, and Edson Barbosa on his resume. MMA fans almost unanimously would love to see Tony rebound with a win, but that is easier said than done versus a tough veteran in King Bobby Green. The longtime UFC vet is back in action again for the second time this year. His last fight in April ended with a bit of controversy. He clashed heads with his opponent Jared Gordon. That clash of heads caused Gordon to be knocked unconscious, which led to a no contest. Very unfortunate situation. Before that fight, Bobby Green had lost his previous 2 fights. He looks to rebound here. OG fans have an absolute treat. One of these 2 longtime vets is going to get back in the win column. But before we see this fight, we have to talk about the main card opener, and that's going to be Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Let's start with the Ultimate Fighter winner, Michael the Maverick Chiesa. Another 10-plus year UFC veteran here, coming off of 2 losses. Those losses were to Sean Brady and Vicente Luque. Before that, the grappling ace Mike Chiesa had rattled off 4 straight wins against Carlos Condit, Diego Sanchez, RDA Rafael Dos Anjos, and Neil Magny. Mike Chiesa looks to defend his number 12 ranking against the fan favorite and ever popular Kevin the Trailblazer Holland. Kevin Holland, aka the Trailblazer, aka Big Mouth, is a very popular fighter. Known for his kung fu style and his fun trash talking during fights, Kevin Holland rarely disappoints. In his recent past, he has notoriously struggled with grapplers. Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson, and Hamza Chimaev all beat him using a grapple-heavy attack. Holland looks to jump back into the rankings here in the welterweight division, but in order to do so, he's going to have to beat a grappler in Mike Chiesa. This should be a very fun fight. Really quickly, guys, let's just talk about some of the prelim fighters you should know. We're going to see undefeated Brazilian prospect Gabriel Bonfim. He's 14-0 in his career. He's 1-0 in the UFC. His brother Ismael Bonfim and him were both awarded contracts on the same episode of the Dana White's Contender Series. He's going to be taking on the veteran Trevin Giles. We're also going to be seeing the UFC's knockout king, Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, in action. He's lost 3 fights in a row, but the popular former heavyweight title contender looks to keep and improve on his number 10 ranking in the heavyweight division. He is facing the Brazilian veteran, the 38-year-old Marcos Rogério de Lima. Claudio Ribeiro is on this card. He's a very flashy Brazilian boxer who is always a fun time. He's going to be taking on Roman Kopylov, the Russian boxer. We're also going to be seeing Jake Matthews, CJ Vergara, Vinicius Salvador, Matthew Semi the Jedi Semmelsberger, Miranda Maverick, and so many more fighters. Guys, UFC 291 takes place this Saturday, July the 29th in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Delta Center. This card is absolutely stacked. I cannot wait to see who will be crowned the new BMF. Guys, once again, my name is Dino Bam Bam with the 107 MMA. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.